Hello everyone, happy Thursday. So I wanted to tell you guys a story, my adoption story. Okay, so in 2011 I had a little girl, June 1st 2011, and I decided to give her up for adoption. Now the reason I decided that is because the dad and I actually left the dad, and I had in 2000, I think December of 2010, I had left the dad because I realized that he wasn't looking for a partner. He was looking for someone to take care of him, and I wasn't about to do that. And so I went to go stay with my best friend in California, Mission Viejo. And so I left him. I went to go stay with her, and she told me that she had a great couple that would want to adopt my baby because he and I had decided we wanted to give the baby up for adoption. Because I didn't have neither of us had a place to live, neither of us had jobs, and I knew what my oldest daughter and my son had gone through, and I did not want my little girl to go through that. I wanted her to have a good life. And so in January of 2011, I believe, is when I met her adoptive parents, really nice couple. And the following month was when I met my current daughter's dad. And so, at first things were fine. We went out with the couple just to get to know them. We discovered that they wanted an open adoption, so I can see her grow up, and eventually maybe be able to talk to her someday. But I realized that the closer it got to the date when I was supposed to give birth, the more depressed I got, the more I started to hurt inside. I cried every day, every time I thought about it. And eventually my daughter's dad was like, you don't have to give her up. We can take care of her. And I said no because I already felt bad having him take care of somebody else's baby. And not only that, he didn't even have his own place. He was sharing a 1-bedroom apartment with his best friend. And so my daughter's dad was actually sleeping in the family room. And I was like, no, this is not an environment. By keeping her, I would just be putting her back in the same situation I didn't want her to be in. I said, no, it's fine. I'm doing this for her because I want her to have the best life possible. So eventually, June 1st, 2011, my water breaks. I go to the hospital. It was an eventful birth. They gave me the epidural too late. And it didn't kick in until after the baby was born. So the baby was already born and my legs were numb. And I was like, yeah. And the nurse was like, we should have done it earlier. And I was like, you think? But it didn't even matter. So I had the baby, and of course, they put her on my chest. Now, before I move further, before I had the baby, the adoption attorney had contacted me and said the mom doesn't want you to bond with the baby. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, she feels like if you bond with the baby, you're going to be more inclined to keep it. And I was like, I guess because the previous adoption fell through because the mom decided to keep the baby. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. I said, besides, I'm already bonded with the baby. She's been growing inside of me for 9 months. I'm bonded. She's like, well, she doesn't want you, as soon as the baby's born, she doesn't want you to hold the baby, touch it, nothing, feed it. I was like, look, until I sign those papers, that is my baby. I will hold her, feed her, change her diaper, do anything I want. So if the adoptive mom is not okay with that, then maybe I'm just gonna have to find someone else. And I guess she relayed my message because there were no problems after that. And so after the baby's born, they put her on my chest, and I would look at her cute little face, and I started bonding even more with her. Right? And so they would come over and they would see the baby and hold her while I was in the hospital. But when they weren't in the hospital, I would cry because it was my baby, right? If I get emotional, bear with me. It was my baby, and I was like, at that point, I was like, no, I don't want you to take my baby. This is my baby. This is not your baby. And they would walk into the room all smiling and, oh, this is our daughter. And I'm like thinking to myself, this is not your daughter. This is my baby. I created her. I carried her. I gave birth to her. I went through a lot for her. You can't just come in and smile and say, oh, look at what we got. No. Okay? And just to be clear, I didn't get anything in exchange for the adoption. Okay? No money, nothing. It was just a clear adoption. And so it came the time where the doctor, the pediatrician, and the OB said, okay, the baby can go home. And so they show up, and they took the baby and put her in the car seat, and they walked away. And I had this incredible feeling of emptiness within myself. I felt really empty. Because I had 2 kids already, and I went home with them, and now I had another child, and I'm going home. It was a really intense feeling of I'm empty now. I'm supposed to be going home with a baby, and I'm going home empty-handed. And I cried when they left. I was depressed, and I was angry. And I was so sad. Doesn't even describe how excruciating it was for me. They're going home all happy with my baby, and I go home with nothing. And for the next year after that, I cried every day. From June of 2011 to June of 2012, I cried, I drank, I ate. Spring to summer of, I think it was summer of 2012. Eventually, I got my first job after, the birth of her at Disneyland. And it was okay, but on the way home from Disneyland, after I got my paycheck, I would stop at CVS and buy a couple bottles of wine. Drown my sorrows. I was drowning my sorrows. At the same time, I was angry. I was resentful of the parents with their pictures, smiling and seeing their family commenting on their pictures, because I was Facebook friends with them. And they were having a barbecue to introduce the baby to their family. And they're like, oh, well, we didn't invite you, but we can't because the family doesn't want you there. I'm like, what are you talking about? Why? Because they're just afraid you're going to come over and just take her and run. I'm like, what? And I'm thinking, what the hell is wrong with your family? And I was just like, it did nothing to help soothe me. It just made me more angry and more resentful at them. And every time I see them smiling, I remember not long after she was born, we had to meet at the adoption attorney's office to sign the papers. And I would get there, I was there with my daughter's dad, and they were there with the baby, just smiling. They were just smiling, oh, coo, and holding the baby and stuff. And I was sitting there, I remember glaring at them. I was angry. And so I told the attorney, I was trying to hide my anger and my tears. And I said, can we speak privately, please? And she's like, oh, sure. And so she led me in the back, because where we all met was like a lobby type, where she had a desk to sign the papers. And so I go back into her office, and that's when as soon as she shuts the door, volcano. Emotion, words, I was yelling. I was, yelling about How can they sit there and just be happy and joyful while I'm sitting here just torn apart from, my heart is being ripped out from the inside, and they don't care. They just sit there smiling, and they only care about the baby. They don't care about me. They don't care how much they're hurting me, how much they're like angering me. And she was like, and I was just a complete and utter mess. And the attorney's like, well, hold on a second, right? The papers aren't signed yet. You can change your mind. And I don't remember if, and I remember my daughter's dad saying, we'll take her, we'll take care of her. But I had a moment of clarity, right? And I was like, no, I don't have anything to offer her. They have everything to offer her, and I have nothing. And I love her. I want her to have the best life she can. I was like, I just need some time to calm down, and then we can go out. And so she gave me some time to breathe. I wiped my eyes. I went out there, and they were, the parents, adoptive parents, were kind of looking at me. They're like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I was like, can we just sign the papers? So we signed the papers, and I was like, is it done? Are we done? And attorney's like, yes, we're done. So I was like, let's go. And got up and left. And yeah, for at least a year, maybe 2 after my daughter was born, I was angry and resentful at them, showing pictures, talking about her. And I was like thinking to myself, why are you talking about her to me? I don't want to hear it. Don't you understand how it's like someone took a piece of paper and just ripped it to shreds? That's how I felt, like a pile of shredded paper. I don't want to hear it. Okay? Just, is she doing, I see her pictures, I see she's happy, she has everything. Great. But I was in a position where I felt like they were gloating, right? That they were gloating. Oh yeah, we have this baby. And I'm like sitting here thinking, I gave you a baby and I got nothing in return. Nothing. They gave me an iPhone. And which made me realize I hate Apple products. I hate them. Okay? That's all I got out of it, an iPhone. And you got a whole baby? Like, of course they couldn't give me enough to replace my daughter. I was like, that is my daughter. That is my child. I don't care if you're raising her. That is still my child. You can imagine the anger. That is my child. Would it have a closed abortion, a closed adoption be better? I think it would have been better to do a closed adoption, because then I wouldn't have. But now I look at her, she's 13. I think she's going on 14 this year. And she looks so good. She's so beautiful. She's so happy. She's so well taken care of. And it took me at least a couple of years to be okay with talking to her dad. And because I talk to her dad at least a few times a week, and I'm okay with it now. And so, people, when I told people I was giving her up for adoption, oh, why would you give her up for adoption? Don't you love her? Don't you want to take care of her? And it was like, of course I love her. Of course I want to take care of her. I'm not even in a position where I can take care of myself, much less a child. My oldest daughter was living with my mom. My son was living with his dad. And I don't have a job. I don't have a place to live. What am I going to offer this child? Love that won't put food in her stomach. Love won't be able to take her to the doctor when she needs it. Yes, I love her. I always said that whatever I give my kids, she's included. If I take my kids on vacation, she's included. If I give my kids gifts, she's included, because she is still my child. You know, I got into a discussion with her dad, and he was saying, you know, we took care of her. She's our daughter. I'm not disputing that, but she's still my child. She will forever be my child. She is not your child. She's my child. I grew her. I gave birth to her. She is my blood. She is my child. You know, and it's funny because I have been able to work through all my past trauma. I've been able to work through the trauma I went through giving her up for adoption. But when it comes to being a mom, I'm a mama bear. You don't mess with my kids. You don't say anything about my kids because I will go after you. Even a child I gave up for adoption. Don't start trying to lord the fact that you raised her over me. Say, well, she's our daughter. She's my daughter too. She's my child. She might be your daughter, but she's my child because I gave birth to her. She has my blood. And to me, it's like this adoptive couple, great people. Okay? Her dad's a little, okay, he's a little, but they're taking amazing care of her. So I can't hate on them for not taking good care of her. They're taking amazing care of her. She's so happy. Okay? But as a mom, I'm still going to fight for my child. And so when he came at me with, oh, you know, we raised her, we adopted her, she's our daughter. Yeah, she's my daughter too. She's my child, she's my blood, she's my child. Yes, I'm grateful that she was adopted by a couple that makes her so happy. Would I ever try to take her away? No. Because I am not going to rip her from what she knows because she's my child. No. However, she will benefit from being my child because I love her the same as the rest of my children. You know, I can imagine growing up as her not being with me. I don't want her to think that I gave her up because I didn't want her. Of course I wanted her. And that's why I'm telling this story. Maybe one day she'll see this video and realize what I went through in order to give her a better life. It's not that I don't want her. Every day, I wish she were here with me. But I also realized that I was able to give a gift to a couple who otherwise could not have children. I gave them something they would otherwise have never gotten. Now, am I saying they're indebted to me? No. No. Because knowing that she is healthy and happy and living a good life makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I made the right decision for her. However, it does not absolve me of being her mother. I'm still her mother. And we can talk semantics. Adoptive mother, biological mother, I'm still her mother. No matter which way you flip the pancake, I'm still her mother. And I will always love her and care about her as if she were with me because she's still my child. And that's why when he came at me with, well, you know, we took care of her, she's our daughter, the claws came out. Because I'm like, and you know what? If I didn't have her, if I didn't give birth to her, you wouldn't have her, would you? If I didn't choose to give her up for adoption, to give her a better life, you wouldn't have her, would you? So take a couple hundred seats and be grateful that I gave you the best gift someone could give someone. And I asked for nothing. Nothing. And I gave you something you would otherwise never had. So watch the mouth. Watch how you come at me. They could block me and be like, I'm not, well, then I'm cutting off your access to her. That's on you guys, if you guys want to do that. But how is it going to reflect in that little girl's eyes? Right? She already knows about me. She already knows I'm her biological mother. And so what's going to happen when she realizes they're going to block me because I hurt their little feelings? I hurt his feelings, so he's going to block me. When she turns 18, she's going to, because you know why? She has my blood. And even though they are her parents, they don't realize that, yeah, they may have raised her. There's, what is it? Nurture and nature and nurture, is that it?
When Daddy comes back, so we could go to McDonald's and kids gym.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to wait for Daddy to come back.
Okay. Is it nature and nurture? So she grew up in their environment. But when it comes to blood, when it comes to DNA, it comes from me. I am a very free spirit. I am very creative. I am the butterfly you keep in the cage. She is the butterfly they're keeping in a cage. Okay? That cage opens when she's 18. And then she's going to make the decision whether to fly or not. I say she's going to fly because she's my blood, right? So I didn't make this video to rant, but I know that the adoption thing is a really sensitive topic. There are kids who have been adopted, and there are moms who have given up their children for adoption. And so I really wanted to shine a light on what it's like to have to give up your baby for adoption, because a lot of people think, oh, they gave up their baby for adoption because they just don't care about it. They gave their baby to the system because they don't care about it. They just didn't want to be a parent. They just wanted to party. And no, that's not the case. Okay? That is not the case. For me, did I want to give her up? No. Did I have to? Yes. I had no other choice. I was not going to raise her in poverty the way my first two were raised. I wasn't going to do it. And no matter how much I want to have kept her would have been incredibly selfish, because she would have suffered if I would have kept her out of my own selfish emotions. And so I talk a lot about putting yourself first. You matter. You come first. Yes, but there's a difference between selfish and selfless, right? Giving her up was not selfish, it was selfless. Because I wanted to give her a better life than my first two kids had. I wanted to make sure that she was happy and well taken care of. It was selfless of me to give her up. I didn't do it because I was being selfish. I didn't do it because I didn't want to take care of her. I wanted her. But my circumstances dictated that I couldn't. I had to do the right thing by her, and I did, because I see pictures of her today and she's happy, healthy, she has friends. You know, there's a lot of things that people confuse selfish and selfless. You know, in 2016, I was suicidal, had suicidal thoughts, 2016. It was a year after I had my daughter. And when I talk about that, when people talk about that subject, you know, people are like, oh, they did it. They're selfish. They did it selfishly because they just don't want to deal with their problems. No, that's not why. Okay, for me, it was about myself being a burden on society, on my family, on my kids. I was being a burden. And that's why I wanted to do it. Obviously, I'm not saying anything specific for 2 reasons, YouTube and my daughter. But it didn't matter to me, and not because I was being selfish. It's like in 2016, I had still not healed from anything, and giving my daughter up for adoption just compounded my depression and put me in that state. And
1 minute later,
I realized that you really take a look at yourself and realize I have nothing to offer the world. I'm just a burden. I always need people to take care of me. I can't take care of myself. I'm an addict. And then I started really thinking about my kids. I'm like, well, my oldest daughter has a boyfriend. She's engaged, so she's taken care of. My son is living with his dad, so he's taken care of. My youngest is living with her dad. She was staying with her dad because I went to Nicaragua for a couple months with my mom, and I wasn't gonna take her to Nicaragua, no. But I was like, my kids don't need me. My family doesn't need me. I'm a burden. All they do is talk badly about me. So why am I even here? That's the thought process that someone in that mindset goes through. Why? I'm actually going to do a video tomorrow called Why Try? And I'm going to talk more about this. And so you get into that mindset of, you know what? It doesn't matter if I am alive or not, so I might as well be not. It'll take the pressure off of a lot of things. Fortunately, I received the help that I needed, and I was okay. But yeah, I can honestly say out of all of the trauma that I've been through in my life, giving up my daughter for adoption was the worst trauma. Worst mental trauma I've ever been through. And honestly, for people, and especially for kids that are adopted at birth, people who are adopted, a lot of times the consensus is, oh, my mom didn't want me. When it's actually, she wanted better for you. That's why she did it.
Mommy, pause it. Mommy, cool.
I forgot what I was talking about. But yeah. Yeah. It's so important that we don't make assumptions. Because you never know what the situation is. People will judge, people will assume, but you never know until you go straight to the source and ask. This is why I created this video. I wanted my story to be told. And if she ever sees this video, she'll know why I gave her up and what I went through giving her up, that it wasn't an easy choice for me, that it broke me mentally and emotionally, but I did it for the love of her, because I wanted her to have the best life. So that was my video, a very personal video. You know, I do have a book on my life that I wrote. It's available. I'm thinking about, with my books, I really want to get them professionally edited and published. But I mean, there's so many events in my life I want to talk about, but I feel like they're not YouTube friendly stories, let's just say. That's why I wrote a book, because it's a lot. There would be trigger warnings up the wazoo. So, but anyway, yes, that was my adoption story. Thank you so much for watching. All of my information is down below, including if you'd like a free reading, if you'd like a free introductory session, if you'd like to donate to my channel, and my other social media. So have a great day, week, weekend, month, year, life. Remember to live in love, joy, compassion, gratitude, kindness, peace, and enlightenment. And I will see you next time.